Here we see an elite player checking an opponent. Note the position of the head, hands and feet. Now let's look at each of the key teaching points for the checking technique. Position the body between the opponent and the goal. Keep the feet wide and bend the knees. Lean slightly forward. Extend the arms to either side with fingers spread. Use short steps to shadow the opponent and avoid crossing the legs. Keep one foot slightly ahead of the other to aid stability and enable a quick change of direction. Once the ball is in sight, or as the ball is being played, attempt to intercept it with an open hand. This is a basic drill to practice the checking technique. Mark a grid 8 to 10 meters square using cones. Divide the players into pairs. One player is the defender and one the attacker. The defender must try to remain in contact with the attacker using one arm at all times. The defender is not allowed to hold or pull the attacker. After a set time, change roles. This is a basic drill to practice the checking technique. Mark a grid 8 to 10 meters square using cones. Divide the group into pairs. Player A runs in a zigzag manner from one side of the grid to the other until they reach the end of the grid. Player B, facing player A, attempts to maintain the check position throughout. Change roles and then repeat the drill. This is an intermediate drill to practice the checking technique. Mark a grid 8 to 10 meters square using cones. Divide the group into pairs. Player A solos in a zigzag manner from one side of the grid to the other until they reach the end of the grid. Player B, facing player A, attempts to maintain the check position throughout, but may not tackle the ball. Change roles, then repeat the drill. As the players become more proficient, allow player B to attempt to flick or pan the ball away from player A as the player solos the ball. Encourage players to only attempt dispossession when the player in possession is soloing or bouncing the ball. This is an advanced drill to practice the checking technique. Mark out a grid 8 meters to 10 meters square using cones. Divide the group into pairs. One player is the attacker, the other the defender. On the whistle, each pair race around the near corners of the grid. The attacking player must attempt to pass the defender to reach the far end of the grid. The defending player attempts to check the player to delay their progress. The defending player may not touch the attacking player. Change roles and then repeat the drill. As the players become more proficient, introduce a ball and allow the defending player to attempt to flick or palm the ball away as the attacking player solos the ball. Encourage players to only attempt dispossession when the player in possession is soloing or bouncing the ball. This is a gameplay drill to practice the checking technique. Divide the group into pairs. One pair is the attacker, the other the defender. Beginning 30 metres from goal, the attacking player must attempt to round the defender and kick for a score. The defending player attempts to check the player to delay their progress, and attempts to flick or palm the ball away as the attacking player solos the ball. Change roles and then repeat the drill. Encourage players to only attempt dispossession when the player in possession is soloing or bouncing the ball. Poor positioning is a common error when performing the checking technique. This may result in the player failing to contain the opponent or being caught off balance. To correct this error, ensure that the player positions themselves between the opponent and goals. Keep the feet wide and bend the knees, leaning slightly forward. Reaching in and losing balance is a common error when learning the checking technique. To correct this error, ensure that the player keeps the knees bent, with one foot slightly forward for stability and quick movement. Crossing the legs when checking is a common error. This may result in the player being unable to change direction with the opponent. To correct this error, keep the feet wide and use short steps to shadow opponent.